Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ahl al-Thana'i wal-Majd. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ya Dal Jalali wal-Ikram. Allahumma aghfir li dhunubi jami'a. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar, walillahi alhamd. Jazakumullahu khair. Thank you so much for having us, Auntie and Uncle, at your home. It's really an honor to be here. Sadaf's mom asked me to say something. I wasn't expecting to have to say anything right now. I do have a couple of things that I've been thinking about since I've been here for Eid. I'm doing my Eid al-Adha in America after a really long time. I think maybe in the last 12 years, maybe this is the first time. It's been a really good experience. Alhamdulillah, I'm really grateful to be able to be with all of you. This morning at our khutbah, I just would like to share a few words about taslim and submission. And I have 2 points that I'd like to share with you about it. So this morning at the Eid khutbah, we had Hafiz Wahaj speaking to us in Farmington Hills at the khutbah. And he was talking about Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam. And he mentioned the beautiful statements in the Quran of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And one of the things that comes to my mind right now because of what I'd like to share with you is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Ibrahim alayhi salam, Aslim, submit, and immediately Ibrahim alayhi salam said, Aslamtu li Rabbil Alameen. I submit to the Lord of the worlds. And the transition is so immediate. It's in one ayah. It's as if the command and the obedience is immediate following the command. And the reason I'm sharing that particular statement of Ibrahim alayhi salam right now is I've been thinking actually about doing Eid in America and this whole moonsighting thing, right? So it's been something that I've faced in the last few days. And I realized something while I was here, that this problem of is Eid on this day or is Eid on that day, this is a very minority Muslim problem. This problem is only a problem that affects Muslims who are living in a non-Muslim polity, who are living in a place where there is no Muslim ruler or Muslim leadership, political leadership. It's a particular problem to you guys. So us, for example, where I live or in other countries, anywhere in the Muslim world, we don't have this issue. What the king says, what the prime minister says, or whoever the body is appointed, what they say, we do it. No, and we have a smooth Eid. We know when Yawm al-Arafah is, we know when the Eid is, and we do it accordingly. The reason I bring that up, and this is kind of what I'd like to say is a little bit politically incorrect, so I apologize because I realize I'm sitting with long-term Americans in this room. But the thing is, when you live in a polity that is ruled by a Muslim under the rulership of Islam, what that does is automatically the Muslims who live there have a sense of how to submit. They just automatically submit, right? We don't have to think, is it calculatably possible that it could have been today or it couldn't have been today? We don't have to even think about it. The responsibility has been given and the responsibility is carried out by who? Not me, not my husband, not our family, not our masjid. It's by the king or it's by the ruler or whoever he has appointed as a committee of ulama or whoever it is. It's decided and we just automatically submit. When we're living in a non-Muslim polity, and particularly in the modern age, in a time when we feel, so you guys, those of you who have heard me speak before, I always speak about liberalism, individualism, and our feeling of entitlement that I have to choose, that I have to decide according to what I think is right. Right? This is a very American, a very Western thing.
Can you tell them what is liberalism or individualism in a kid's type of?
I think they'll get some of what I mean. Basically, I get to figure out things. I don't want to listen to anybody else. Anybody else, like And it goes to such an extent where we will question the president, we'll question our masjid imam, we'll question our hifz teacher, we'll question our parents, we'll question our big brother. I mean, in Islam, it's even to the point where there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, your older brother has the maqam of your father. Right? Who does that?
You just gave her a
Right? So, I mean, this is something that is there in the deen. Why is this there? It's there because what is the name of our religion, guys? Islam. Who knows what Islam means? Not cleanliness. What does it mean? Anybody know? Okay, the adults?
submission.
It means submission. Back in the 80s and the 90s, we used to hear people say it means peace. It doesn't mean peace. It comes from the root that has a sense of peace. And of course, when you follow Islam, you reach peace. But the meaning of the word Islam is submission. And that submission is supposed to be reflected not just in our ibadah, it is reflected also in how we think about everything around us. There's an element of submission. When you have that submission, it is easier for you to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, if you know I'm supposed to do what my parents say, as long as they're not commanding me to do something haram, I should basically do what my parents say always. And if there's like a really important reason, I'm getting older and I see my parents might not understand why I want to do this rather than that, then I speak to them with adab in a way to try to convince them. Right? But not like how it is today, I'm just going to do, they don't understand, my parents are so whatever. Right? That kind of an attitude, that is not a Muslim attitude. The same thing goes for us as women when we're with our husbands. As long as he's not commanding you to do the haram, there has to be an element of submission between the wife toward her husband, which is something, again, people don't like to talk about that anymore. And the same thing goes for the citizen or the person in a political area, that you submit to your leader. And you don't have to constantly question. We as Americans, we have the habit of constantly questioning. Why this? Why that? Okay, I'm going to do Eid with the moon sighting because, there's no way the moon could have been sighted anyways. I know better. You have to convince yourself that somehow I knew what was right. That's not what it is. And so my recommendation in this context is that ourselves and to teach our children, you choose your religious source. I have a scholar who I follow. I have a madhab that I follow. I'm a Hanafi, I'm a Shafi'i. You choose one that you know is trustworthy, that you know has the right knowledge as far as you can see. He knows his Quran and Sunnah and what he's learned from the ulama. And then you aslim. You submit. That's the closest American Muslims can get to having an attitude of submission, inculcated in yourself and within your children. Right? And when your children see that the father always submits to his teacher, even if he doesn't completely understand, he always submits, or to his madhab, or to what is correct according to the deen from the sources that he trusts, the child will know that's what he's supposed to do with his authorities. He's supposed to submit to his teacher when he gets older. He's supposed to submit right now to his father and his mother. Right? And when the child sees that the woman submits to her husband, even though she might not agree with the decision he's about to make, she says, okay, fine, this is what we're doing. Oftentimes, even when the husband is doing something that's a little bit funny, doesn't really make sense, by the barakah of the woman submitting, khair comes out of his decision, just because she sacrificed her opinion for the sake of the tranquility and sakina of her home. And when the child sees that that's how his mother is, or that's how her mother is with her husband, the child is like that with his parents and with his teachers. So when we see rebellion and we see questioning from our children, we have to look at ourselves and say, do I submit in the places where I'm supposed to be submitting? Because if I'm not that submitted person, it could be that lack of submission, that rebelliousness is what I am transferring either by hal or by state or by tongue to my child. And that was the first point. The second and very brief point that I'd like to make, this is also something Hafiz Wahaj said this morning, is that when you look at Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam, in what happened in Mecca, multiple times with his father, including the time when he was about to be sacrificed. His father said, I have been told by Allah that I have to sacrifice you. And he basically says, I am ready. No question. It's an aslim right then. Right? And so what the Shaykh said this morning in the khutbah was, this is a symbol, this is a sign of his rutbah. He said there are many great qualities of Sayyidina Ismail alayhi salam. One of the ones that really stands out is that he always submitted to his parents. This is a tremendous rank in Islam. If you have righteous parents, or you have any kind of parents who are telling you what is good for you, generally your parents will tell you what is good for you, particularly if they are Muslim and they understand what Allah and His Messenger want, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they will tell you what is good for you. And he would always submit. And this is what gave him a very special place among the great Anbiya. And also he mentioned Sayyidah Hajar, his mother, right? Ismail alayhi salam's mother. When Ibrahim alayhi salam, her husband, is leaving her in the desert, and she could have, and she did, actually, she said, why are you doing this? Why are you leaving me? This is just an empty plain of sand, and I'm here and I can't go, there's no hunting here, I don't even know how to hunt, I have a baby, I'm going to die, basically, right? And she asked him, and he was commanded by Allah not to answer and not to speak and just to turn and keep going. So he's doing his aslam, he's moving away from the family as she is getting more and more scared. And then she realizes something. This is my righteous husband. She says, did Allah command you? And he just nods and and he indicates yes. And aslim. She submits. No question after that. Doesn't ask anymore after that. Because she knows if Allah has done this, He's going to take care of me. And He did take care. How did He take care of her?
By the water.
By the water of Zamzam coming. For her and her baby, right? And that whole area became Mubarak because of this. Because Allah had already decided, of course, but this became the sabab for it, right? So, the point was, in this morning and also right now, again, still under the umbrella of submission, the thing is that we must submit to the place where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed me in a position where I am a wife and I have children and I have things that I'm supposed to be taking care of. If I'm not getting the same fasting in, and if I'm not getting the same tahajjud in, and if I'm not getting all of the same things in, I trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right now my submission is in these things. In the tarbiyah of my children, in the care of my home, etc. Same thing for the father. It's very easy. It's very easy if, a man is inclined to do something that is more appealing to what his nafs wants. But every single morning he has to get up, and every single morning he has to go and make bread for his family, get bread for his family, in whatever means or whatever way that is, by doing his work. And to do that with excellence. And then to come home after he's tired and show a smiling face to his wife and his children. It's not easy to do that. I mean, we go shopping for 3 hours, when we come home, we're cranky. A'udhu billah, we're like so cranky, right? I'm so hungry, I'm so tired, it's so hot. So for a man to go out for 8 hours, 10 hours, and then come home, and he comes, Assalamu alaikum, how's everybody? This is a huge thing, and it's a huge act of ibadah, and this is a type of taslim to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That despite how he's feeling and the stresses and the pressures that he's faced that day, he shows a smiling face to his loved ones. So, accepting the place that we've been put in. So these were our 2 points for the for the talk for today. Number 1, that be careful. My warning to you, I guess, from what I've noticed, as American Muslims, be careful not to adopt that rebellious attitude that suffuses everything in this society. All the time, question why, and if your mind doesn't accept it, you won't accept it. Don't do that. Find a trustworthy source who can teach you your deen and submit to it, and you will find felicity both in this world. You'll find happiness and success both in this world and in the next world. My point is, when you submit to someone who has been placed in authority over you, and you do it for the sake of Allah, khalisan li wajhillah, somehow you will find the khair in it. Because you're doing this for the sake of Allah and you are not violating the Sharia, you will find khair, even if at the end that person actually technically was sort of wrong in what they were asking. The husband wants to buy a $50,000 car or a $100,000 car, and you're about to take care of some major expenses, university expenses for the child. The wife will be like, why are you doing that? And she might try to convince him. She might try to help him see. But he's really adamant about getting this car, right? Finally, she says, okay, fine, it's your money. I see you really want it. That's fine, right? Something would come that ends up being khair from that. And you might not see it immediately, you'll see it over time. Those of us, I see the elders in this gathering right now, they're nodding their heads because from their experience, they know what I'm saying is true. The longer you live, the more you will see that this is true. First, submission to Allah, then the Prophet ﷺ, and then whoever they have commanded, ulul amri minkum, you submit to them. Okay, and I pray that is a beneficial word for myself and for all of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our fasting and our good deeds and our intention to gather and to celebrate for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May He accept our udhiyah, our zabiha, and our sacrifice, if we've done it here, if we're planning to do it here, or if we've given it to Muslims somewhere else. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it a source of credit, high credit for us on the Day of Judgment. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it a source of our najat from the hellfire, our salvation and our protection from the hellfire. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our children the coolness of our eyes, the joy of our hearts. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all from the imams of the muttaqeen. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to follow in the footsteps of Ibrahim alayhi salam and Rasulullah, Habibullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in being very beautifully, perfectly, and in a very balanced and excellent way on the sunnah, submitted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all the situations where it is called upon to us to submit.